Hey, Cash Kids, let me ask you a big question. What if I told you that you could be a millionaire one day just by saving a little bit of money each year, starting now, even as a teen? In this episode, we're talking to Adam Bergman, a retirement expert who's helped over 17,000 people invest using self-directed IRAs, including his own kids. He's going to break down how you can start investing in things like Bitcoin, real estate, and even small businesses. Yes, even you as a teen. We'll talk about the secret power of Roth IRAs, how compounding returns makes your money grow faster, and why starting gives you the biggest advantage. So, if you're serious about building real wealth and taking control of your financial future, you do not want to miss this. Also, before we dive in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review if you're loving the podcast. You can also donate and buy some merch. Your support is going to help us reach future millionaires just like you. All right, let's get into it. So, you got some cash, maybe from an allowance, or that money your grandma gave you for your 7th birthday.
Here you go, sweetie.
Woohoo! Thanks, Grandma! Whatever it is, what are you gonna do with it? Spend it, hide it away, or maybe invest it? Let's start learning how to make that money grow. Time to learn how to be a cash kid. Hey, Cash Kids. Welcome back to the Cash Kid Podcast. And today we're doing an interview with none other than the Adam Bergman. He's the founder of IRA Financial Group and IRA Financial Trust, which are the leading providers of self-directed IRA plans and 401ks. He's helped over 17,000 clients make alternative asset investments with their self-directed plans. Adam has published 9 books on retirement plans and taxation, is a frequent contributor to Forbes, and has been quoted in over 250 major publications. He's passionate about educating Americans of self-directed investment plans and passionate about my generation and learning about these types of investment strategies earlier in life. I'm excited to learn from Adam today. So, hey, Adam, welcome to the show. And first off, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thanks so much for having me. Really excited. So I was a tax lawyer and for 8 years in New York City, really always wanted to be an entrepreneur, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had the pleasure of being able to help a client who wanted to use his IRA to invest in what's called a hedge fund, right? It's a more advanced way to invest. So I was asked to research how he was able to use his IRA to invest in a hedge fund. And I was totally blown away because I couldn't imagine myself, always thought of myself as a really, smart guy. I was a tax lawyer, I have a master's in tax law, and I had no idea that you can use your IRA to do alternative assets like real estate or gold or hedge funds. So I quit my job and started IRA Financial about 15 years ago.
You help adults save for retirement in really unique ways. So can you explain just what a self-directed plan is, but in a way that a kid or teen could understand it?
Sure. So let me double click on that and just give a little bit of history and make it easier to understand. So in 1974, IRAs were created. Not a lot of Americans got to save for retirement, right? It was mostly if you worked at big companies like Ford or GE, you had a defined benefit plan. Otherwise, you just didn't have a chance. So the government created ERISA, which created the IRA and the 401k, which are the 2 most common ways to save. So what is the foundation? What's an IRA or an individual retirement account? Basically, anyone that has some income that works, that has a job, could open an IRA. So you can be a lifeguard, you can be a basketball coach, you can work at the grocery store, you can do chores for a neighbor. As long as it's really not a parent paying you, you can have income and you can put money into an IRA. And what's the advantage? Well, there's 2 big advantages. One is you get a tax deduction for what you put in, meaning if you make $20,000 and you get a $5,000 tax deduction, you only pay tax on $15,000, which is good. It's less money goes to the government. And the second is the most important. It's called tax deferral. That means you don't pay tax when your money is invested in an IRA. So here's a simple example. If you take $100 and buy Bitcoin, okay, or Tesla stock, and it goes to $200 in an IRA, and you sell it, you don't pay any tax. If you did that in a non-IRA account, you would pay income tax on that gain. And if you did that for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, you're going to have a lot less money if you saved in a non-IRA.
Right, yeah. And I feel like that's a big factor, and that's part of one of the reasons that we really wanted this interview, so we could teach people the different, like, investment strategies or different ways that you could invest through different platforms. And so being able to show, like, the unique benefits, I think would be really beneficial for us at our age. So thank you. And, third of all, why do you think it's important for people, even young people like us, to start thinking about money for the future now instead of waiting till we're adults?
Yeah. So being young, you have the biggest advantage. I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they both have Roth IRAs. So let me just discuss that real quick. So I talked about the traditional IRA where you get a tax deduction. There's something called a Roth IRA, which is an after-tax IRA, meaning you do not get a tax deduction. But once you're 59 and a half and the Roth's been open at least 5 years, you pull out everything tax-free. So you never, ever, ever, ever have to pay income tax again on what you save. So here's an example. I like to give examples because I think they make the most sense. So let's take an easy example. How about someone's 15 years old? Okay, and let's say they have a job at the grocery store. And let's say they want to save $1,000 a summer, right? They're going to spend some money and do some stuff with it. But let's say they just want to put away $1,000 a summer, which is possible. And let's just say, for argument's sakes, that from age 15 to 70 years old, okay, so even if they go to college and make more money, the individual just puts away $1,000 a year, starting from 15 to age 70. And let's just say they get an average rate of return of 8.5%, which is pretty good, but not great. Considering if you look at like the S&P 500, the largest index in the stock market, it averages over 10%. So if you did that, 15 to 70, $1,000 a year, 8.5% rate of return, at age 70, you'd have $1 million. Okay. So how about this? Instead of 15, let's say you started at 25. Okay. So instead of 15 years old, you start at 25, $1,000. Guess what? You only have 450. So this is so important. That's why I'm so excited to be on this podcast. If you're young, you have the biggest advantage, and that's time. And the way the retirement system works is the more money you put in and the more time you have, the richer you become.
Yeah. And I think that's one of our main, like, factors and things that we're trying to get people to do. So at my school, I was given the opportunity to give a presentation. So I made a financial presentation about how to make money and what to do with it. And in it, I really hit on the, like, big impact that starting early is, like, one of the biggest benefits you could possibly have. Because I did the same example. I said if you started at 16 and then you started at 26, and the difference is basically almost half, as you just explained. And so it really just shows, like, the important
Yep.
and beneficial factor of starting early. And that's why we like to say it's never too early to start. So, what's the difference between regular investing and alternative investing? And could you give us another fun example?
Yeah, absolutely. So when IRAs were created back in 1974, the IRS did not distinguish between an IRA that bought stocks, which is traditional investment, anything that's publicly traded, right? Like stocks or exchange traded funds, mutual funds, and then alternative assets, which are non-publicly traded, like real estate, gold, hedge funds, private equity, private businesses, lending your friend money. Even Bitcoin is considered an alternative. So it's anything not traded on a public exchange, anything that's not a stock.
So basically, you just instead of traditionally buying a stock, you set it into, like, maybe a Bitcoin or, like, a house that's just, like, not as, like, publicly traded, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It's exactly right. So the reason why the government wants us to invest not just in stocks, but in real estate or Bitcoin or gold or private businesses is they want us to diversify, right? The idea is that if you put all your eggs in one basket and something happens to the stock market, you don't just lose 30% of your net worth in one day, which has happened. So like for me, my best investments I ever made, and for my kids as well, was Bitcoin. I got into Bitcoin over 10 years ago. I started buying Bitcoin for my kids 5 years ago. And that is far exceeded anything they've been
Oh,
able
yeah.
to generate in the stock market. So if they just stuck with stocks, they would have done fine, but they would have missed out on a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I feel like that's, like, really true about a ton of things because, I mean, then again, like, real estate prices are constantly going up. And so when I was first, like, looking into you and, like, thinking about other stuff, I really saw how it was just, like, another way to diversify. Because when I talk, I always talk about diversifying in your stocks. But then again, talking about this alternative
Mhm.
investing, you can really diversify into, like, having stocks, having real estate, having Bitcoin, and having a lot of different, like, other factors which is, like, another way to diversify, which I never really thought about before. So, can, kids
Yeah.
and teens actually start investing in alternative things like real estate or small businesses, or is that, like, just for adults?
No, it's kids can do it too. The key is the money, right? So some alternative assets like real estate, you may need some significant money to invest. Like you want to buy a house, it's going to be hard to do that with $7,000. So there are alternatives you can do for less money, like there's Bitcoin, like gold, like private businesses, right? There's crowdfunding stuff where you can invest in a startup with just $5,000 or $10,000. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of fun stuff that you can do that could potentially really, really maximize your returns. And you don't need a whole lot of money to do it.
Right. Because I feel like that's another like factor. Because when I'm talking to kids my age, they're like, I don't have enough money to start. It's not really going to make an impact. But then again, just starting early and like just setting in that money and getting in there and continuing to set money in there, it will help grow your money. But then again, as you just said, maybe you only need like $1,000 to $5,000 and you just set it in some gold and stuff. Well, that is still going to go up in price over time. And so I think that that's really
Yeah,
important that every kid needs to think about. It's you don't have to have a ton of money to start because you can start by investing
exactly.
with literally just $1. Like you in some investment portfolios, fractional shares. So $1 is all you need, even though it might not give you as much, you're still setting money in and can get a return. So just as you said, maybe 1,000,
Yeah. So
5,000 or $100, it doesn't really matter because you can still grow your money.
right. So let me just kind of discuss this one term that's very important to understand. Probably the most important thing a child or a young investor needs to learn, and that's something called compounding returns. Right. I'm sure you've talked about that before. Compounding returns means your money doubles every 8 years, assuming a 9% rate of return. It's the power of 72. Albert Einstein said compounded returns is the eighth of the world. Albert Einstein, the smartest guy ever. So what is compounded returns? It makes sense, right? Your money is going to grow faster when it's not subject to tax. So if you take the two features of being a kid, meaning you're young, which is an amazing advantage over someone that's older, and the power of the retirement system, which allows you to invest and generate returns without taxation. If you marry those and put those two together, you have almost a guaranteed way to generate significant real wealth, real
Mhm.
money for your future, for your life, tax free.
So you started IRA Financial and now you have helped manage over $4 billion. Did you always know what you wanted to do with money when you were a kid?
I was lucky. I had a really smart dad, and my dad was really into investing. So we would
Yeah.
watch at that point, like CNBC, and he would teach me and I would learn. But the most important thing he taught me was the term compounded returns. And he always said, you want to save, you want to start young. The biggest advantage you have is being young, your age. So I started my habits. It's all about good habits, right? Good habits isn't just about eating or health, it's also about investing. And good habits means starting, even if it's $1 a day, $1 a month, $1 a quarter, a year. Just start saving, open an IRA, put money in, start investing. You're going to see your money grow. And there's nothing that's going to excite you more than success. So as your money grows over time, you're going to say, hey, this is really cool. This is working. You're going to put more money in. And I guarantee you, it's guaranteed because it's math. It's just, it works.
Mhm.
The more money you put in, the more time, the more you invest, the more you diversify, you will be very, very, very rich when you're older. It's guaranteed.
I got started by playing a stock market game and I figured out what all I could do with it. And here I am over like 3.5 years later from the first time I did that. And I'm talking about it. And I think it's just super cool. So, do you think that schools should teach more about money and investing? And if you could design a class for kids, what would you include in it?
Yeah, that's my passion. It's my dream is to actually
Mhm.
teach these courses. Yes, we are doing such a disservice to our young generation. And I give the example of me. I obviously went to school. I went to university, a really good university. I went to law school. I even have a
Mhm.
master's in taxation. So I was in school till I was like 25 years old. I worked at some of the largest law firms in the world. And not once did I learn about compounded returns. Not once did I learn about retirement saving. So yes,
Mhm.
we should be teaching kids probably starting in eighth or ninth grade about the power
Mhm.
of investing, how it works, what's stocks, how do you
Yeah.
look at a balance sheet, how do you make a decision on an investment, what's an IRA, what's a 401k. Yes, we are
Mhm.
really hurting our young generation, and it's a crime.
Yeah, because I have talked to a lot of adults and they talked about like how you just explained that they were not taught anything. My mom, her senior year, was given a pamphlet and was taught how to write a check. And that was all of her financial education all the way through high school. And that was it. I mean, I've seen some better improvement, like how now it's required in some states that you do have to take at least one financial course. We interviewed someone else, and she said that the benchmark for financial education is the 4th grade, which means that we really need to start getting in there and start learning early. And I think that that is, again, one of our passions on the podcast is that we can earn, save, and invest money earlier in life. And so we hear a lot about
Yeah.
Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. What should our generation know about these kinds of investments? And how do you think that they could impact our future?
Yeah. So I wrote a book on cryptos. I'm very bullish on Bitcoin. I've been investing in cryptos for over 10 years. Without giving people investment advice, I think it's important to gain exposure to emerging asset classes, new technology, whether it's AI, whether it's cryptos, whatever's next, right? It's important as an investor to allocate. And that's why diversification is so important. It's not just important to buy Tesla versus Google versus Apple. It's important to say, you know what? If I have $1,000, I want to allocate that $1,000 to different investment classes like gold, like Bitcoin, like stocks, like real estate. So you're well covered. So if one asset really goes up, great. If one asset really goes down, it doesn't impact your whole portfolio. So yes, I think young people should get access to cryptos. I mean, that's up to you depending on your risk profile, how much you want to put in. But whether it's $1 or $100, I think it's important to learn about the technology and to gain some exposure to it. I think the biggest piece of advice I would say is if you're young, take chances. You have the best opportunity to take risks in your investing because you're young. So you can make up for mistakes. Where if you're a grandparent, right, and you're in your 60s or 70s, you can't take risks because you're going to need the money to live to help pay for your lifestyle because you may not work forever. But if you're young, you can take risks. So that's why I think it's really exciting to invest in alternative assets like cryptos or private businesses, because yeah, there may be some chances that you may not be successful, but that's okay because you have a lot of time to make up for those losses versus when you're older.
You've written 8 books about money. And if a kid wanted to learn from one of your books, which one do you think that would be like the most beneficial for them to start with and why?
I actually wrote a 9th, but
Oh.
so I think it's this one. It's called 7 Figures by 70. And I wrote this, it's a couple hundred pages. I wrote this maybe 5 years ago, but the principles stay the same. It's all about what we talked about today, that basically if you do these 3 things, you're going to be rich. And here they are. Start early. That's why being a kid, you have a huge advantage. As long as you have some income coming in, start early, open in a Roth IRA. Be consistent. Number 2, right? Get good habits. Even if you can't put in a lot of money, you need to save it for other things, or you need to help your parents out with stuff. That's cool. Put $1 away. Just keep your good habit. And then 3rd, the most fun, trust the process. Be patient. Watch your money grow. You do those 3 things, you're going to be rich. It's guaranteed. It's mathematics. It's compounded returns.
Mr. Bergman, where can people go to learn more about you and your services that you offer through IRA Financial Trust and your other business ventures?
Yeah. Call me, it's Adam. So definitely check out the website, irafinancial.com. But I think YouTube, like I always send my kids, they're always on YouTube or TikTok, but YouTube's probably better in this case. And there's thousands of videos, some long, some short, some boring, some fun. I don't know, but you can have fun with it and kind of pick and choose what you want to learn about. You don't have to read a boring book if you don't want to, but at least you can learn about the principles. I would focus really on the idea of what's a Roth IRA, the advantage of saving tax-free, and then the power of compounding returns. Understand it. It's not that complicated. You're doing a great job explaining it. And by the way, what you're doing is so important because if you can just hit your target audience to get kids focused on saving, like we can all be tax-free millionaires, all of us. It's not a zero-sum game, the retirement system, right? Every one of your friends could be rich. It's not like, oh, only 30% of my friends could be rich in their IRA. No, you all can have millions of dollars tax-free. They got to listen to your podcast though.
Thank you. And so if you wanted to direct people to where they can invest through your IRAs, where do you think that they should go? Like what website or how should they look you up, Adam?
IRAfinancial.com is the best place to go. You can learn all about the business, me. You could learn about an IRA, a self-directed IRA. There's tons of great info there. And it's not super intense, so it's pretty short and easy to understand. One of your listeners can call in and be like, hey, I'm 16 years old. I have a summer job. I want to put $1,000 away. what can I do? And my team is amazing, and for free, they'll talk to you.
Thank you so much, Adam. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank you for joining us on the Cash Kid podcast and boosting the financial knowledge of fellow Cash Kids everywhere. And remember, anyone can be a Cash Kid. You just have to learn how to become one. Cash Kid, out.
The information presented represents the views and opinions of the guest. This podcast does not intend to provide personal investment advice. This content has been made for informational and educational purposes only. To make a full and informed investment decision, we advise you to speak with a financial advisor. And for kids, definitely your parents first before investing.